Ooh, ho, ho. Fresh off the plane, all the way from sunny Australia. What is in the box, I imagine most of you are wondering, and we will get to that in just 2 seconds. In fact, some of you on here probably recognise this logo, but let me just start off by saying that this isn't a paid advertisement. We're not sponsored or being paid or anything to say this. Carly and I bought this with our own money, and it is safe to say that this is our biggest single expense in terms of purchasing anything this winter. And I also think this is probably the most important piece of safety equipment that we've bought, well, certainly this year, maybe ever, but definitely this year. Now, before we dive into it and I start pulling it apart, let me just say that not only is this a piece of safety equipment, but for life on a boat, over the last few years of living on a boat full time, this is also something that will come in immensely handy in a whole host of different situations. Now, to give you a little bit of context, I'm going to need to take you back in time just very quickly to the year 2020, when the whole world got flipped on its head. There was a lot going on back then. Now, during that year, Carly and I, as we were exploring, we were in the West Country, and something got triggered inside of me, like a dormant gene just got pressed, and all of a sudden I became incredibly interested in the ability to find our own food, whether that was hunting, gathering, foraging, spearfishing. I just became fascinated with the whole thing. I went on a deep dive on the internet trying to find people who had an expertise in this area, and I got hooked. Now, whilst we were down in Falmouth, I took myself into a dive shop, just completely randomly. I had no intention of going there, but I just walked past, strolled in the shop, and I looked up on the wall, and there it was, the cheapest, nastiest, most beginner, basic spear gun you've ever seen. And I thought, that looks cool. And so they handed me down this spear gun, I handed over about £50 and took myself off back to the boat. Now, the purchasing of this spear gun did actually coincide almost perfectly with my turning 40. A cynical take could be the beginnings of a midlife crisis, which is fair. Completely fair, actually. But I'm going to just go with the fact that it was a coincidence. 100% coincidence. Now, believe it or not, within the first couple of days of owning a spear gun, having never tried to do anything like this ever before, and only a couple of years earlier being reasonably scared of the sea, it's a somewhat paradoxical relationship I have with the sea, because I am both terrified of it and drawn to it in equal measure. And as time goes on, I'm getting much braver being in the water. However, it was right at the end of the sailing season as I acquired my new spear gun, and I managed to actually catch some fish and put some food on the table, and it felt amazing. And that spurred me on to last year, where I became absolutely obsessed with getting in the water and finding food. Now, this is where Carly was starting to get a little bit concerned, because more often than not, I'd be taking myself out into the water and I'd be freediving, extreme snorkeling, holding my breath for as long as I could. I'd be freediving on my own out in the sea in search for food. Now, there are a whole host of dangers when out diving on your own. For anyone watching this thinking about doing it yourself, you really shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. That's the crux of what I'm trying to say. But I did. And you know, there's a lot of dangers to think about. You know, you've got the tides, you've got boats, you've got jet skis, you've got wildlife. Shallow water blackout is a very real thing. Now, I had spent a decent amount of time doing some free dive training and really thinking about the dangers of being down there, but the fact of the matter is, if you're on your own, you're on your own. Things can go sideways pretty quickly when you're out in the wild. So Carly was always concerned and said, look, I'd feel much happier if you had a dive buddy down there with you. And I went, yeah, fair enough. So as we're sailing around the south coast, every time we pull into somewhere new, I took it upon myself to jump onto forums, Spearfishing UK, Spearfishing Southwest, these pages on Facebook, and I'd make a post letting other spearfishermen know, hey, I'm going to be in the area. If somebody also happens to be around, it'd be great to jump in the water and, you know, have somebody with me and we'll go diving together. But the reality is, we never knew exactly which days we'd be where, and you know what it's like. We're moving from anchorage to anchorage, moving around as the weather changes. So it might be a Tuesday afternoon, we roll up in Hope Cove, I send this message out to everyone, and the reality is most people have got jobs, they're at work, they've got commitments, and so we never really managed to tally with many people. I think 2 people I actually managed to get into the water with over the course of the entire sailing season. Now, that didn't make Carly particularly happy. The idea of me diving down 30 feet in the water to try and catch a lobster or shoot a fish or collect some scallops. If I had a shallow water blackout, well, if I had a shallow water blackout, that's all she wrote, if we're honest. So the ideal situation would be to train Carly up to come with me. But the reality is Carly's not massively confident in the water. She's asthmatic, and just the idea of holding her breath and diving down to even remotely similar depths to where I'm hunting at is just not going to happen. Now, it's not beyond the wit of man to try and think about rigging something up where I could maybe have a rope tied around me, and if I don't come back to the surface within 90 seconds or 2 minutes, then Carly could just pull the rope up and bring me up. It's not impossible to think of ways to solve this, but the reality is when I go out hunting, I'll be in the water for somewhere from 2 to 3 hours. Asking Carly every day to sit in a dinghy for 2 to 3 hours minding a rope, I imagine that's going to get pretty boring pretty quickly. And deep down, I would love for her to be down there with me, seeing all of the things that I'm seeing, having the same experiences I'm having. And it would also be cool because if she was also down there with me, we could get some different camera angles, and there's just a whole load of reasons that it would be awesome if we could figure out how to get Carly to come down with me. And that is where this comes in. So, without any further ado, let's check it out. Check that out. Alright, so this is an Air Buddy underwater hookah system. I hope I pronounced that right. Hookah system. Basically, this is an air compressor that will float on the surface and send air up to 12 meters down. The reason that we went for this, as opposed to a petrol hookah system, is again, it's just one less engine to maintain, and we've got a ton of solar on the boat, so it just made sense to really try and maximise the fact that we can produce a lot of electricity, and just charging a battery seemed like less to think about or worry about. Although, whilst I was doing my research for this, an awful lot of cruisers who have basically bit the bullet and gone the scuba route just said, why not buy a couple of tanks and just put a compressor on the boat and just get some scuba gear. Just bite the bullet and get some scuba gear. That is fair, but we just don't have the space for it on this boat. And I realise a 38-foot boat for a lot of people is still a respectable sized boat, but with 3 of us on it and the way this boat's configured, it's just ram-packed, and we just don't have the space to put an additional couple of cylinders and another compressor. And again, that would be another engine for me to try and maintain. And I'm trying to get to doing less, not more, hopefully. So this seemed like a good compromise. Now, the fact that Carly can be down there at 10 meters depth with me is brilliant. If anything goes wrong and the dreaded shallow water blackout happens, you can just grab hold of me and take me up. Also, when it comes to life on a boat, there are so many applications that this also feels like it'd be dead handy for. If you wanted to change your anodes and you're in an anchorage, you don't want to have to keep surfacing, this would be a great application there. If you foul your anchor and you're in your anchorage and maybe you're in sort of 10-15 meters of water, well, maybe not 15, but if you're in 10 meters of water, then I could get down there on a single breath. But again, once I get down there, I don't have a huge amount of oxygen stroke energy to do a great deal. I'm down there, I'm generally not moving a great deal, and I'm pulling a trigger on a gun. The idea of trying to wrestle potentially a fouled anchor or untangle an anchor or the kind of situation you get in, I don't think I'd be that useful at that depth on a single breath, personally. Whereas with this, all of a sudden you can go down there. It gives you up to an hour's worth of working. To about 55 minutes is the average battery length that you could be down there for. So 55 minutes under the water should be ample time to get a fouled anchor sorted out. And likewise, if you get caught in some fishing nets or anything like that, again, there's just lots of applications that this could potentially be quite useful for. So it isn't just the fact that Carly can be down there 10 meters under the water with me, hopefully filming some interesting camera angles and just keeping an eye on me to make sure I'm safe and sound. There are lots of other cruiser applications that I think this works well for. But I'll be keen to hear from any of you, if any of you out there have used or currently use some sort of hookah system. Any of you especially that use a lithium battery powered system. There were 2 or 3 out there that all seem to be sort of competitors with each other, and as I say, this is the one we settled on. Again, not sponsored by these guys or anything. We bought this with our own money, and I won't lie, it was a somewhat eye-watering amount of money. Well, I'm sure some of you are watching this and there's not an eye-watering amount of money, but for most of us mere mortals, it brought a tear to my eye. But hopefully we're going to get a lot of use out of it this year, and both of us will rest much easier at night thinking we're just that little bit safer. But let's see what else we've got in the box. So straight away we've got this dive flag. Now the dive flag also doubles up as an air intake, so it just folds over itself here, and you can see there at the top. So the water can't get in the top, but basically this is folded over so that the water can't get in, but the air can. So that just pushes in here. So hopefully that will be, hopefully that will deter the jet skiers out there. But having been in the water last year with a float and a flag, in a lot of cases, that seems to be something to aim for a lot of the jet skiers. So always a bit disconcerting. Right, so we've got a DC charger and an AC charger. Coiled air tube, so again that just helps with stowage. You can tuck that away quite easily. Here we have the regulator with the purge button on the front. This is the size I would wear. This is from Australia, extra large. I thought Australians were big. I'm not that big. Right, so that goes on the back. Your air hose goes in here, and then goes around your neck so you don't lose it. Now you do only get 55 minutes of runtime on average for a battery, and I tend to spend somewhere between 2 to 3 hours in the water at a time when I'm going out hunting, so we really wanted to make sure that if that was going to be the case still, that Carly had the ability to be down there with me for the whole time if need be. So we ordered not one, but two, they're heavy, additional batteries. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm a lot more confident under the water than I was only a couple of years ago, and I can't wait to get back in. But the reality is that this is going to be absolutely essential for Carly to join me down there, but she then will be completely reliant on this. Didn't really like the idea of her being, as I say, completely dependent on this, because if something does go wrong, if it breaks, or she doesn't hear the alarm that says she's running low on air for whatever reason, including the computer, or they say all of the safeguards have been missed, and next thing you know she's 10 meters down and is struggling to breathe. We also bought one of these too, which is a spare air system. This seems like just a sensible thing to have as well. So there you go. Carly's going to be down there with me, keeping an eye on me, making sure that I'm safe and sound and can get back, and it's my job to make sure that she can too. So hopefully now, with all of this new equipment, Carly can not only join me under the water, keeping a close eye on me, making sure I make it home in one piece, but she can actually join in the magic of being under the water here, because I didn't even realise just how beautiful it is all along the British coastline, how stunning it is under the water, the amount of wildlife and crystal clear water and all the amazing things we have to see. So she can really join in the experience fully with me, rather than just wait for me to get back and then show her what I've managed to capture on the GoPro. Nothing beats being there yourself in person. The roof is now also finished, so our paddles can go back on, which our main sheet can be reattached, and then we're off. And yeah, just wanted to bring you guys up to speed. Nearly there, super excited now. But let us know what you think about this. Do you think this is a good idea, good shout, something every boat should have, terrible idea? Anything, any pitfalls, anything that maybe I haven't thought of that I need to look into a little bit more? Jump in the comments, let us know. We're here to learn. We're experts in precisely nothing, and we learn so much from you guys. And thank you all again for taking time out of your busy days, 5 or 10 minutes, not just to hang out with us, but to get involved in the comments and share your wisdom with us. Right, that's it from us. We'll see you next time, hopefully out on the water. Alright, take care.